Hi, it's Rebecca Whitman, your host of the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show. I'm a top-rated life coach, an international best-selling author, and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I'm on a mission to help you go from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. The experts on this show will help you achieve work-life balance so that you can experience abundance in 7 pillars of life: spirituality, health, emotions, romance, mindset, social, and financial life. When you have all 7 pillars of life in alignment, you are balanced, beautiful, and abundant. Let's go. Hello, Sarah Sparks. Welcome to the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant Show.
Hola, how's it going?
It is going great. I just got back from Spain where we had the best time. And while I was in Spain, the podcast that I did with you on your show came out.
It's true, yes. I know. I sent the email to you and I was like, oh snap, she's all the way in Spain.
But you know what? It was such a great conversation and interview that I was promoting it from Spain and so excited, and people should definitely check it out. So remind us of the name of your podcast so they can check out part 1 of our wonderful connection.
Floating on a Cloud podcast.
I love that. And you are floating on a cloud. So let me tell my audience a little bit about your awesomeness. So Sarah Sparks is an international best-selling author. She's a podcast host, a speaker with a master's in public administration. She's a highly sought-after business advisor, and she helps people tap into their intuition in the business world. So Sarah, tell us about your story. How did you go up from growing up on a farm to being a spiritual business coach?
There were many steps in between. Let's just say that. I feel like you were from Ohio, yes?
Yes.
Is that so kind of a Midwest feel. So I mean, University of Iowa and Ohio State played each other, although they were rivals, so we're kind of one and the same. So I'm sure we have similar stories,
Not quite. I didn't grow up on a farm, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the main thing that I help people see now is that they always have been their souls. Like, I've always been this.
Yes.
It's giving me the permission to be this and every single person I am in contact with, whether it is watching football at the neighbor's house this past weekend and they are talking about my youngest who has a speech impediment. I said, well, I did too, but it's because I heard spirit. And so I go into a whole conversation about spirit and my gifts. And this woman is a speech pathologist and she's looking at me going, because I'm invalidating everything that she's learned, and I'm not trying to. I'm just tying in how things are not always as they seem. And
Right.
So I went from, going to college to getting married to the person I went to college with, and then planning my own death, quitting my job, not killing myself, and I always just throw that out there. And my best friend from college is like, can you not say that so nonchalant? And I was like, well, I've healed from it. I've gone from it. I've learned, I share it, because it's all about what I've learned is that at those points that I was at the most depressed that I could possibly be, and I did not want to be here. It's not that I didn't want to be here. I no longer wanted to be living the life that I was living. And I would heard a voice that said I was meant for more. So even out of that darkness, there was still light. And I became very in this dark space of me because I had turned away from my soul. I turned away from my divine guidance. And so I've seen how growing up on a farm, to having various jobs, to going to school, to getting divorced, to quitting jobs, to then meeting the man from my dream down in Florida. Literally, I had a dream about him when I was 18. That was all around divine guidance. met him for real, in real life on a beach. The dream came true, and that's a whole nother story for another day. I want to focus on using intuition in business, but I just have seen where my soul's calling has been interwoven, whatever words are there to use, in my whole life. And when I haven't followed my soul's calling, when I have not been aligned with who I really am, that is when I feel the worst. And I feel depressed, sad, frustrated, tired, worn out, pulled in many different directions. I feel a lot of times after channeling hundreds of people's of soul's callings, and soul's calling is the reason why the soul came into the body during this lifetime. After channeling that, I've come to realize that a lot of people have a certain question that they keep asking over and over and over, or a certain curiosity. For me, I always question, why am I here? What is my purpose? There has to be more to this life. What is it? And hence that was part of my soul's calling, is to share with people why they're here. What is their purpose? Once I found out myself and I lived it, then I can share that as well. So I feel like that is true for a lot of us. I probably just vomited everything on y'all.
No,
So
that is perfect, but we can't save that story for another time. I'm a hopeless romantic and I am on my second marriage. So how did you meet your husband on the beach? Tell us that story.
Oh, okay. I was 18 years old and I felt very overwhelmed by all the questions that everybody was asking me, such as, where are you going to go to school? What are you going to study? Do you want to work for public sector, private sector? Do you have a significant other? Do you want to be married? Do you want to have children? Like all these life-changing decisions, all when you're like a senior year of high school. And I honestly had no idea. Like, I don't think I'm all that special, that I think a lot of 18-year-olds don't have a clue, but I don't think it's emphasized. Like, I think like, especially now, it's like, you need to know what college you're going to by the time you're a freshman and you're going to have blah, blah, blah. And do we know? I don't know. So I just felt overwhelmed. And that night, one night, I was raised Catholic. I did not know that you could ask God for anything. Like, I thought like you either had to be at war, dying, like down and out to actually have a conversation with God. So I was like, just like a stab in the dark, literally was dark. I was falling asleep and I was like, yeah, so I don't really know how to pray, but if you could possibly tell me what I'm supposed to do with my life, that'd be stellar. Like, that was my prayer. And I fell asleep. In sometime in the night, I had this dream that I was walking along the beach. Sunset was to my right. A big body of water was to my right, with various shades of blue. There were crunching seashells underneath my feet. I felt them, I heard them. There were seagulls flying over. I felt warm moisture, like humid air hitting my face. Everything about this space. I was just walking. I was all alone. And then all of a sudden, a man appeared. He was 12 feet in front of me, about 6 feet tall. I'm 5'9". At the time, shorter than me men were attracted to me. And so I always wanted to date someone taller than me. And so when this man magically appeared in my dream, I literally said to God, you did good, like in the dream. And this, oh yeah, I think I said the sun was setting. Yeah. And then, so he was about 12 feet in front of me. He's 6 feet tall, broader shoulders, dark brown hair, like a tan neck. That's all I saw. I had the dream once a week for an entire year. Every week I would have the same dream over and over and over, to the point that I would walk up and down the hallways of school being like, is this it? Is this it? Or I would be like out at some, like I used to be part of Future Business Leaders, FBLA. And I would be like at every conference being like, okay, is that the, but not remembering it was on a beach.
Right.
To the point that I married my now ex-husband, knowing full well he was not the guy. And I would go on vacation. I don't think I've ever said this. I would go on vacations and still be holding the hand of the now ex-husband and looking at every other man being like, is that the man from the dream? Is that the man from the dream? Is that the man from the dream? When I woke up from the dream though, and I think this is key, because this I have learned through teaching people to listen to their own divine guidance. We think, could it be that easy? Like, I just asked a prayer and I got the answer. Like, if I tell anybody that my future plans is to be living on a beach and I'm just going to marry this random dude that I meet, they're going to think I'm crazy. I need to have all this planned out. I need to know X, Y, and Z. I need to go to college. I need to have a job. I need to blah, 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 blah. And I thought if I told anybody, I would be crazy, that I literally had a conversation with God in my dream and I got the answer. So I just bottled it up and I just shoved that to the side. I think that bottling up and shoving it to the side is also what creates those, what I would say, lower vibrational feelings, such as tired, frustrated, worn out, pulled in many different directions, depression, yada, yada, sadness, because we are shoving away. So going back to the dream, all of crapness happened in my life, of all depression, all the deaths, not deaths, all the things, all were happening. And my best friend from college says to me, Sarah, you are being a huge bitch. And I don't know if I can say that or not, but she's like, we're
not FCC regulated.
Okay. And like, you're just being this, and we need to go on vacation. So we went on vacation to St. Pete Beach, Florida. And 3 times we were told to go to Mulligan's. And when things happen in threes, I'm like,
yeah.
And I said this to somebody else on a podcast, and they're like, do you know that Mulligan's literally means do-over? Wow. And I was like, no, not until this very moment. So I was told to go to Mulligan's, and I was not divorced at this time. I made the decision on the plane ride down that I was done. And I was like, I'm done dealing with this because of a situation that happened right as I was getting on the plane. And so it was not in my like wheelhouse of the dream's coming true and I'm going to meet the man for my dream. Like, I was just like, men can suck it and totally just screw everything. And so told 3 times to go to Mulligan's. 3rd time I was finally like, we were parasailing. So we're like, yeah, sure. We went to Mulligan's. The band was leaving. We had to pay an $8 cab ride. I was like, oh my God, this place sucks. We finally get there. There's one other group, an Iowa group of women, all talking about rag bride, the bike ride across Iowa. I was like, of course they're from Iowa. And then there was another group of very drunk people, and the woman comes up to me and starts like pumping my face. And I was like, oh my God, I'm really uncomfortable. So this man comes over and he was like, I'm so sorry, we've been drinking all weekend, like blah, blah, blah. He offers to buy my friend a drink. He sits down, starts talking. I was like, cool, awesome. I get up to go to the bathroom and I walk past the man who buys the drink and I feel something. And I'm like, that's weird. Whatever. I'm going to go to the bathroom. So I come back. He's like, so I would like to offer you a rate-free drive back to your hotel. And he's like, my friend will be with me, blah, 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 your friend, like, not just us, like, we'll just take you back. And my thoughts were, I'll save $8. Sure. So we go back. He seemed really smart. He didn't tell me what he did, but he just looked really smart and he looked safe. So I was like, let's do this. Yeah, so we get dropped off at the Swigwam. I say that because it's just a funny name. And we're standing there and we're ordering a drink. And that's not where we were staying. I was like, this dude's not going to take us back to our hotel. And so we're standing at this tiki bar place. And I feel at home, like the same feeling of the whole dream. And I haven't felt it for years. I was like, I looked at him and I was like, you feel like I've known you my whole life. And at the time I was not woo. I didn't say to people, you feel blah, blah, blah. Like, because that's what spiritual people do. It's like, this feels good. Like, It does. So anyways, he felt at home. We started talking and he's like, well, the sun's setting. Do you want to like walk along the beach? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we go walking. I have my cup in my hand. I drop it. So my friend and his friend are like all like far, far away. I drop my cup and I turn back around and he's 12 feet in front of me. He's 6 feet tall. Sun is setting, seagulls flying over, sand, water, all the things. And I'm standing there now with an empty cup and I'm like, oh my God, this is the guy. Oh my God. Like, the whole thing for 10 years, I mean, I would think about it every now and then, but it wasn't like still happening every week, you know? And that is Craig Sparks. I'm married to Craig Sparks. So people ask me, oh, is Sarah Sparks your real name? Is it your spiritual name? Is it a stage name? And I'm like, nope, married Craig Sparks. I'm Sarah Sparks. So there you go. So that's how
Wow,
I met him.
that's a powerful story about visualization and intuition. And because I help women manifest their soulmate, and I tell them, how are you going to feel when you meet your soulmate? How, and you were like the humidity, the colors of
Yep.
the ocean, how the sun felt, stepping on the shells. Like in that dream, there were such vivid details of how you were feeling and how you were being that helped you manifest him. And it wasn't in your time, it was in God's time. That's the thing about manifesting is we think that it's going to happen on our time. And I think a big part of it is just relaxing and trusting divine timing.
Oh yeah. And it was so like, I wasn't thinking about who do I need to become in order to manifest this. Like I knew nothing about manifesting at this time. But what was interesting was when I like fast forward from that point of meeting him to like a couple months later, I am packing up, even like a month. I was packing up all my stuff and moving into an apartment and starting the whole divorce process. And I told him that night, I was like, I'm a mess. Like a few months ago, I was planning my own death. I'm not divorced. I just decided to get divorced. Like, you don't really want anything to do with me. And he's like, well, here's my business card. We'll connect when we're supposed to. Like, and we talked till 4:00 in the morning. No, like hanky panky, no nothing. Like, it just felt like I knew him my whole life. And he made jokes like, oh yeah, look up at the stars. That's a falling star. And I was like, you're dumbass. Like, that's a plane. And those were things, and he purposely did it just to like test me. But those were things that when I was little, whenever somebody would be like, oh, that's a falling star, and I would be like, no, it's an airplane. Like those were things that I just was like, I can't believe you're asking this. But back to your manifesting and how you help your clients, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I got married to my ex-husband in August of 2004, and November of 2003, I made a whole list. Like, how do I want to be treated? Like, what does this person feel like, look like my ideal husband? Because I was like, this is not right. Like, and I flat out and sat down with him. How do I want to be respected? How does my mornings look? How do the evenings look? Like, what is it? And I did not remotely think that this was manifesting because I didn't know anything about that. Again, raised Catholic. Like, it wasn't like, let's create a vision board. And so I wrote this whole list out, and I sat down with the ex-husband, and I was like, listen, I don't think you're him. Like, I don't, this list does not match you. And I don't want to be unfair and change you to fit this list. And he's like, oh, no, like, we can make it work. I love you so much. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, okay. So fast forward to when I'm now packing up, getting divorced and all the things, I find the list. And I'm like, oh my God, all the things that I'm getting divorced from were all right there because he did not match who I really wanted. Then fast forward to me getting to know Craig, and I'm like, bring back out the list. And I was like, holy buckets, you are this person. I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. And there's been other spiritual things that he and I have realized soulfully that we contracted to be here and agreed to be here and do this life together. So but I always say that with like caution, because I think sometimes people are looking for their soulmates, and it's like, once I find my soulmate, everything is going to be lovely. We fight like cats and dogs sometimes, or we're both very stubborn. And so we have to intentionally work on talking about topics at the right time, all the time, even if they're heated, even if like, how can we get through this? Because life isn't just like, I found my soulmate, and so now everything is lovely. Like, we're still human. And a lot of the first few years was like us getting over our limiting belief. And when we both would clash and our limiting belief would be leading the way, well, Natalie, that would be not very much fun to be in that household at that time. So.
Well, it sounds like you guys are twin flames, because I think that twin flames they can really push each other's buttons because they're more of a mirror, and soulmates can be a much easier ride. So
I guess we chose not the easy button.
so I just think you're twin flames, that you guys came to the earth together and decided, you guys were going to teach each other certain things, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think timing is so important too, because one of my dating coaches always says, before you bring up something to your partner, you say, I'd like to talk to you about blank, is now a good time, because especially masculine energy, they're always focused on accomplishing something. And if they're super focused on something and you bring up something that's heavy or emotional, they get like, I don't want to talk about that. So I think asking for, is this a good time, or setting an appointment is something that is so helpful. But let's talk about, you suppressed your intuition, and that led you literally to be suicidal. So why is it so important that as entrepreneurs or just business people in general, that we learn to access our intuition and not to suppress it? Because the whole theme of this show is to take people from burned out, overwhelmed, drained, exhausted to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. And if we cannot listen to our intuition, like you said, that does lead to burnout, exhaustion, or even depression. So how can we find that intuition and have the courage to listen to it?
Yeah, those are multiple questions. I'm going to start with
a lot.
You're fine. Yeah, it's great. So why is it important to be listening to your divine guidance, to your intuition in business? So let's say you're making a decision. And a lot of times when you're at burned out and overwhelmed, you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And I am sure you preach this. I mean, I feel like I'll be saying exactly what you say as well. But you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders because you are in your head coming up with all the solutions, all the research, all the data to make all the decisions all the time. And it's not usually, the clients who come to me it's not just usually in business. It's now they feel like they are being the leader of their own household in every aspect of their life. They're the ones that have to make all the decisions. Intuitive decision making is taking that overwhelm, that burden, that weight of the world off your shoulders, tapping into a higher intellect, a higher frequency that already has the answers and also the questions and all the timing. And it is the most effective and efficient way to be making decisions. I had a client once say to me, well, how do you eliminate friction? There's a lot of friction in business. There's a lot of bias that comes into meetings. There's a lot of bias that comes into decisions. There's a lot of judgments. And that is all coming from the conscious mind and even some of the subconscious mind. But are we tapping into the superconscious mind, which is that divine, that intuition? I looked at it and I was like, you have not been listening. We have been talking about 5 steps, simple, easy to be making these decisions. And I think sometimes people feel like if they're tapping into their intuition or embracing their gifts and using them in business, that they're crazy. No one's going to take them serious. They need to have the data. Cool, get the data. I would be like I'm not going to carry all the weight of the world on my shoulders anymore. Just not going to do it. Too much. I've got too much to do to focus on that. So it's all right, where do I need to get to the data? I would ask my divine guidance for that. Where do I need to go? What information is needed? What are the results that they're seeking? Who do I need to be connecting with? Everything about my marketing plan, my financial plan, my business plan, everything I get from a higher consciousness. And it is the most effective and efficient way I have found. But it also depends on
asking the right questions.
Yes. So
open to the answers.
Yep, for sure. So there's 5 steps in listening to divine guidance, and it's from what Spirit gave me is allow, ask, receive, trust, and act. The other part that you were asking about, or you had mentioned, was like
Those are brilliant.
allow, ask, receive, trust, and act.
Love it.
And they have to be in that order. A lot of people are like, let's not allow, I'm just going to do my own thing, but I'm going to ask. That turns into manipulation, and you're manipulating the universe and energy. I would not be messing with that. So you have to allow. And allow doesn't mean like, I'm going to grant you permission and I'm going to allow you to do this. No, like it's opening yourself up to receive. But you were asking questions around like receiving and like how someone could be available to receive. And the receiving is important to understand how we receive, because people who come to me are like, because I listen, I'm auditory. So it's literally like Spirit's like having a conversation with me. That is very easy. I have asked for that. Like if I were to walk around and ask for signs and I'm like channeling your soul's calling, that would really take a long time. I have to be auditory. But let's say a client comes to me and is like, I've been asking for signs, asking for like, am I to quit my job here? Am I supposed to write this song? Am I supposed to be doing this computer program or that? Or how am I, well, because on my podcast, I've interviewed people who are corporate leaders, to musicians, to FBI agents. Like it's not just a spiritual group peeps. And so where was I going with all that? No, so knowing how to receive is, are you sight? Are you sound? Is there a taste? Do you have a feeling? One woman this morning that I was channeling for, as I was doing some healing work on her, she got full back of her, like all of her spine became goosebumps. She's like, that has been my sign that it's a yes, over and over and over. Cool, awesome. Another client would get goosebumps along her jawline. We all receive differently, but knowing how you receive. And I say that because when people come to me, they're like, well, I'm not receiving like you receive. How do I receive like you? And I'm like, dude, it's called how to listen to your divine guidance, not how to listen to Sarah Sparks's divine guidance.
Yes. I love that. Some people, it's in their heart. Some people, it's in their gut. You know, some people, they could hear a song on the radio. I mean, just be open to how you want to get your divine guidance. So I'm auditory too. I either hear it through my own, thoughts, channeling, or I hear it through somebody else. So if I hear something 3 times, I'm like, ooh, I better look into that. So if it's a book or a workshop or someone that I'm supposed to connect with in business. So you do get, I think, that the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, it does repeat itself until people get it. So you don't have to be like, oh my God, I'm not sure if that was the sign. Like, I think the universe wants it to be clear so we can unfold as we're supposed to on our soul's journey.
Yes, for sure. I agree with all of that. And mine, it has been 3s as well. And so, but it's also, just like you said, just paying attention and being open to what,
Yeah, absolutely. So what does SOUL, soul, in business mean?
I know Spirit told me that because I have, like, my soul came into my body during this lifetime to teach business owners, professionals, and leaders how to lead with their soul by listening to divine guidance. And so I was like, if somebody's like, what's soul? I was like, Spirit, what does that even mean? And it's spiritually outstanding, unique leaders.
I love that.
So spiritually outstanding, unique leaders. Also, it also gives you permission to do business in your own unique way. That is, there's no cookie cutter, this is the formula. I have found with people who lead with their feminine, lead with the divine, they really need to be tapping into their own intuition, their own divine guidance on when to post, who to reach out to, what's supposed to be shared, what's not supposed to be shared. And every time I myself have tried to follow someone else's guide, 6 steps to blah, 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 and launch this and that, it fails miserably. And so if I continually connect in and ask the right questions, that's why also people hire me as I ask these awesome questions to Spirit, and I'm like, dude, it's literally the question. Like, you want to know how to make six figures. You ask, how do I make six figures? Like, it's not, I think sometimes people are like, let me complicate the question in the most possible way. No, like whatever it is that you want, you ask the question. Like whatever it is, just ask. Not complicated.
I think it's really challenging in the online space, which is where most business is being done, for creative types to find their way, because there's so many courses like funnels, lead magnets, like algorithms. I mean, it is very intimidating. So to have a coach like you be like, you know what, that's great. You can hire someone to do the funnels and the Facebook or TikTok ads and the lead magnets, but let's talk about how are you actually going to like be in your business and show up. And that actually can create more abundance than having the perfect funnel. What is your opinion on that? Because I don't like all that super stuff.
No, I'll give you an example. A woman hired me for one session, and she was like, you come highly recommended. And I was like, well, that's cool. Because what was cool about it was this woman I have like looked up to and admired for a very long time. So when she reached out to me, I was like, God, have I made it? Oh my God. Anyways, I'm just joking, kind of, sort of. So anyway, so she reaches out and she had multi six figures, $1 million years, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I'm doing all the things. I have all the things in place. I'm doing all the ads, all the funnels. I'm running. I'm doing all the launching, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, have you checked in with your energy of what's going on? And what's going on with your soul? And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, every email I get from you literally feels like you're flipping me off. Every Facebook ad, every post you make is literally like, F you, F you, F you. And she's like, but that's not what I'm saying. I said, it's not what you're saying, but that's the energy behind it. I said, so what are you not in alignment with? Like, you need to be in alignment with your soul and what it is really leading you to. Because if you're talking about something that is 6 months, a year, 2 years behind you, and you're like, this does not make any sense anymore, but this is my launch pattern. This is my schedule. This is what I have to do. But if you're not in alignment with it, it's going to come across. And if there's any frustration around that, that's also what you're going to be coming across as. So that I think is also important to be checking in with your soul instead of just following someone else's six-step formula. Is it what is going to work best for you? And what's the energy that you're leading with?
Kind of like what we talked about before we hit record, you're reinventing certain aspects of your business. As we grow and unfold along our soul journey, then our business is going to look a little different. And even, what you did 2 years ago, maybe it was like a 5 or 6 figure launch, but if that's not you anymore, it's not going to, land with your clients because it's not being authentic to who you are right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm always asking, what is it that I'm really trying to say here? Like, what's the most effective way that I could say this? Or just trying to get it across as best as possible and as simple as possible as well. Because sometimes I feel some clients have come to me who have studied various spiritual leaders and practitioners, and some people make it really complicated, and they're just like, can you make it really simple? And I'm like, got it. I can make things really simple for you. So,
or what I like doing is thinking of my ideal client and like, or you know what, we are our ideal client before our transformation. So how would I have need to hear an email or a, social media message to resonate with me? And that makes it so simple because we are our own ideal client before we've had our spiritual transformation. So that's a way.
That is such valuable information. When I first started my business, I was one of the people who took all the webinars, all the classes, and people would say to me, okay, who's your niche market? And I'm not even sure if I'm like, I don't even like the word anymore. Like, I don't even like hearing it, saying it, because it felt very demographic. I used to be in HR. So it's like, this is my demographic and this is what, it was very much disconnected. And since I am a very connected individual and I like meaningful connections, saying something like, this is what they did, and they live in a cubicle from 8 to 5, and like, not really. Like, what are they feeling? What are they experiencing? What's going on with them? And then, yes, thinking back to even 2 years ago, for me, like, that's where I align with my clients. Is like, what was I needing to hear 2 years ago? Sometimes I even write letters to that client, to the old me, and pour my heart out. And that's usually when I also get clients as well.
That is great. So how can we get into receiving modes so that we can get our guidance more easily? I know that you have a special gift that you are going to be talking about and so generously offering our listeners.
Yes, please feel free to download that gift. Spirit gave me, what I was doing was, I like doing a yoga, just some yoga moves and stuff to Abraham Hicks. And Abraham talks about getting into the receiving mode a lot. From what I have listened to her, I haven't heard like how to get, like, what is like your receiving mode. And so I just asked the question, and Spirit gave me a few steps in order for someone to identify what is their receiving mode. And so that's on the freebie, and it's a video, and I take you through it. So there you go. Enjoy.
Two things I love: yoga and Abraham Hicks. That's so cool. So if you want to get that free video, make sure you go to the show notes. And how can people stay in touch with you? Where can we find you online?
On my website is where all the links are, and it's sarahsparks.love.
That is so perfect. I didn't even know there was a love domain. That is so cool. sarahsparks.love, everyone. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. You have given us so much wisdom on how to go from burned out and overwhelmed and not listening to our intuition to balanced, beautiful, and abundant by listening to our intuition and being our true authentic selves, both in business and in life. I really appreciate your time. If you're listening to this show in a podcast format, please take a screenshot, tag me and Sarah on Instagram. We'll happily reshare in our stories and give you a shout out. And please consider taking a minute out of your day, giving this a 5-star review, and sharing it with a friend. We so appreciate your time. Until we meet again, keep your vibe high and your hands clean. And thank you for being a part of the wonderful, balanced, beautiful, and abundant show. See you next time.